LAW529, General Relevancy, Section 9, Lecture 1. Okay, today we are going to look at Section 9. Now let's look at Section 9 here. Section 9, we are talking about evidence or relate to facts necessary to explain or introduce relevant fact. Facts which are to explain or introduce a facts and issue or relevant fact. Facts or which support or rebut an inference suggested by facts and issue or relevant fact, or which establish the identity of anything or person whose identity is relevant, or fix the time or place at which any facts and issue or relevant fact happened, or which show the relation of parties by whom any such fact was transacted are relevant so far as they are necessary for that purpose. Now, if you refer to this particular provision, right, Section 9 provides you with kind of 5 relevancy situation. Yeah, you may look at some books. Some books may separate it into much more smaller categories of relevancy. They separate into explain 1, introduce, support, rebut. Yeah, but in the context of my explanation here, when you are talking about evidence relevant under Section 9, basically we can separate it into 5 categories of relevancy. Now let's look at that. So under Section 9, the first one we are talking about facts which are used to explain or introduce facts and issue or relevant facts. Facts which support, right? Facts which support or rebut inferences suggested by facts and issue or relevant facts. Facts which shows identity. When you talk about evidence of identity, it could either be identity of thing or person, right? When you talk about identity of person, it can be the accused person, the victim, or a relevant third party. So the fourth category will be facts which indicate to you the time and place where the facts and issue or relevant facts happens. And the last one will be facts which show the relationship of parties, right? So this will be what is relevant in Section 9. Now, if you refer to the words in the Evidence Act, these facts is relevant so far as they are necessary for that purpose. Now, the last several phrases at the end of Section 9 here is indicating to you that you are tendering evidence here relevant under Section 9 only for the purpose under Section 9. So basically you have this 9 relevancy purpose, that is to explain or introduce facts and issue or relevant fact, support or rebut, identification, time and place, and relationship of parties. Now, when we look at about evidence that explain or introduce facts and issue or relevant fact, we are going to look at this one by one. In general, in this lecture 1, we are going to look at evidence to explain or introduce, support or rebut, time and place, and relationship of parties. Because out of all these 4 categories of relevancy, evidence with regards to identification, evidence with regards to identification is going to be the most problematic, right? And when you talk about this, it's going to be quite thorough discussion need to be done with regards to evidence of identification. So today in our lecture, we are going to look at the other 4 relevancy situation under Section 9. Now let's look at the first one. So you are tendering evidence here to explain or introduce facts and issue or relevant fact. Now what happened here is that, say for example, this is normally a situation where you are tendering evidence here sort of like maybe to start the ball rolling, right? To start the ball rolling. Say for example, you have a situation where, now let's look at evidence to explain or introduce facts and issue or relevant facts. Okay. Say you have a situation, you have Ali kill Mona, right? Mona has been stabbed several times, and what happened is that Mona's body was dumped. Her her body was dumped at katakanlah at one of abandoned field, yeah, at the abandoned field, right? And you have here katakanlah Pak Mat is actually the one who is a rubber tapper, and he is about to go tapping, so he has to go across the field, and he saw body of Mona, okay, lying on the ground. Masa tu katakanlah pukul, when you go for rubber tapping, it's very early in the morning, katakan it is actually 5 a.m. in the morning. She saw the body of Mona, right? Okay, he saw the body of Mona sort of like being dumped at the field. Now, what happened in this situation here is that no one knows that Mona is dead. So what happened? Pak Mat will immediately go to the police station. So if Pak Mat goes to the police station, so he will make a police report, right? And the issue here is, can the police report here be tendered as evidence in the court? Right? Now, the kind of evidence that Pak Mat will be giving here, if you are producing the police report here, the evidence of the police report tendered or written by, recorded by the police of what Pak Mat said will be relevant as FIR, First Information Report, to start the ball rolling, right? But of course, in this situation, the moment Pak Mat call 999, okay, the police will come and they will do investigation. Having said that, Pak Mat will have to make a police report, and if the police report is standard here, is to start the ball rolling. Remember, the police report is actually to introduce or explain facts and issue or relevant fact. Now, must you call Pak Mat to testify in the court? Yes, you have to. Pak Mat will eventually testify in the report as to what he perceives. So, if Pak Mat saw the body of Mona here, so katakanlah what Pak Mat perceives is that body of Mona here basically has been covered with maggots, and then it smells very badly, and besides the body, he found apa benda semua. So that will be evidence that Pak Mat saw, that will be direct evidence, and in the context of relevancy, this may be relevant in the section 7 state of thing. That will be what he perceives. Right? Now, can you tender the police report? Yeah, in the context of this section, you tender the police report is not to look at the content. You are not looking at the content of the police report, but you tender the police report is only to start investigation. That is it. It is first information report. Later, when you go into your criminal procedure code, first information report will be a statement recorded under section 109 of the CPC. So this is a situation where you are recording your statement. By virtue of your statement being recorded, police can start investigation. Yeah, this is what happened in the case of Krishna Raj. I give you an example, yeah, of this situation. Katakanlah you came back from your kampung, you go to your rented house, so you bring with you basically your laptop semua, you masuk dekat rumah in your rented house. So you were sleeping very soundly, you didn't realize that someone broke into your house. So you were suffering from a break-in. So someone break into your house, and then he stole all your valuable belongings, your laptops and whatever. Now, in the situation, the police wouldn't know what transpired. But what happened here is that you are going to the police station. So you have here, this is the victim, went to the police station. So when the victim went to the police station, he may made a complaint, police complaint, and which could be in a form of first information report, section 109, indicating that on whatever day while I was sleeping, someone break into my house, blah, 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 blah. So as a result of your complaint, your report, police conduct investigation to investigate into the break-in into your house. So this will be an example of situation where you're talking about facts necessary to explain or introduce facts and issue. So you're talking about the facts, introducing the facts and issue or relevant fact. Yeah, you can look at the book, yeah, to explain further on this point. Right? Okay, if you look at right, second part of section 9, yeah, you are talking about facts to support or rebut inferences suggested by facts and issue or relevant fact. So you are here tendering evidence to support or rebut inferences suggested by facts and issue. Now, when you look at this one, right, besides looking at the illustration as to what does it mean by evidence of support or rebut, you basically can find this in illustration B and C, right? So illustration B and C will be the one that reflect evidence to support or rebut, right? Okay, now when you have a situation to support or rebut, there must already be a fact. So there must already be a fact which has been accepted by the court. Now maybe the reading of section 9 on this point, your support or rebut here, you can read it together with section 8 sub 2, that is evidence of conduct. Now let me explain to you on this one, right? Now say for example, you have, now why do you have here evidence relevant to support or rebut is where you have a situation where sometimes one act, you have one action which can be interpreted in more than one way. Yeah, more than one way. So you have, for example, I'm teaching you in class law of evidence. I look at your face, abruptly I leave all my belongings and I left the house. Sorry, I left the classroom. So the fact that I'm leaving the classroom, you might be wondering, why am I leaving the classroom? So there can be more than one explanation to reflect my action. Saya punya action is only one, leaving the classroom. But there are more than one explanation why am I leaving the classroom. It could be that, well, I cannot tahan anymore, I need to go to the toilet. That could be one explanation. It could also be the fact that while I'm teaching, I remember that I have left my valuables in the car which is not locked. So, without saying anything, I just left and go to my car. Or, suddenly I recall that the dean is calling me and I have to be there in 5 minutes. So, that could be some explanation. So, when you refer to section 9, facts which support or rebut inferences suggested by facts in issue, here you are talking about, you are only having one action, but there may be one explanation with regards to the action. So, the law allows you to give explanation to it. Now, this one, as I told you just now, can be read together with section 8 subsection 2. Say, for example, you have here A. You have basically a roadblock, right? So, you have a police here who is actually conducting a roadblock. So, A was driving his car, moving towards the roadblock, and then suddenly, the police asked him to open up, asked him to go out of the car and to open up dia punya bonnet, kan? Right? Now, what happened here is that while he opened up the bonnet, and suddenly the police says that you are a trafficker. So, A was shocked and he ran. Quickly, he ran away and eventually he was caught by the police. Now, you have here the police officer who is your prosecution witness. The police officer here will testify in the court katakanlah A is now charged for trafficking drug. Yeah, trafficking drug. So you have the police officer here, katakanlah Inspector Z. Yeah, Inspector Z here is going to testify in the court of the fact that, right, when I asked the person to open the bonnet and I said to him, you're a trafficker, he immediately ran away. Yeah, the fact that he immediately ran away here reflective of evidence of A's subsequent conduct of guilt, right? Reflecting of him being guilt. Because you only run away because you are guilty, so you are trying to escape from being caught. So here you have a situation where Inspector Zack here will testify in the court of the fact that A ran away from the scene to evade from being caught. So this will be evidence of subsequent conduct under section 8 subsection 2 of the Evidence Act. Now, when do you use section 9? Yeah, 9 you're talking about facts which support or rebut. So there are two kinds of evidence under section 9 in this context. It's either you use it to support or rebut. Now, what I'm explaining to you here is that you are going to use section 9 here to rebut. Now, what happened here is that, okay, so you have here the accused person ran away and he was caught. And in the court, A informed the court. So A told of the fact that he ran away not because he was guilty, but he ran away because he was so surprised of the fact that you say I'm a trafficker, and the fear of being caught for capital punishment resulted in me running away. So basically, that is an explanation. Yeah, you have an explanation made by the accused person in the court explaining his action of running away. Now, in this context, his explanation here is used to rebut the inferences earlier suggested by the evidence that reflect that he was actually running because he's guilty. So the first impression is that he ran away because he's guilty. So I am rebutting your inferences by giving an explanation. I run not because I'm guilty. I run because I was in fear. I was so shocked. So this is an explanation. So my explanation here is actually used to rebut. Okay? Now I give you another example. Katakanlah facts issue here is Ali kill Mona. Right? Ali kill Mona. And basically, Ali looked at the door or at the window, and he basically saw a police car stopped by in front of his house. So what he did was that he quickly go through the back door. Yeah, he quickly go to the back door and trying to flee, but then he was caught at katakanlah on the bus, right, on the bus. Now here in this case is that the police officer who saw him fleeing through the back door and going on a bus, this police officer may be giving evidence of Ali's subsequent conduct trying to flee from being caught. Yeah, so this will be evidence of section 8 sub 2 to reflect conduct, his guilty conduct. Katakanlah A now, Ali here now said that I am not running away, but I was late for an appointment. What A produced now, katakanlah A is producing his letter of appointment, ataupun dikata he's going to KLIA, so his flight ticket. So what happened here is that A here is giving evidence to support the fact that he went through the back door is not to evade from being questioned by the police, but instead he is going through the back door because he's in a hurry, he needs to catch a flight. So this is the evidence of my flight ticket, and this is my appointment with so and so forth dekat mana-mana. So Ali's evidence here is supported by evidence to rebut suggestion that I am running away from the scene. Right, you have this one, recorded number of cases that you can refer to. You basically have the case of Omar bin Daud. You also have the case of Abdullah Zawawi. This is a situation where you use evidence to rebut. There can also be situation where you use evidence to support. Maknanya instead of using it to rebut, you use it to support. It depends on the facts of your case. So this will be the second situation of facts under section 9, that is to support or rebut an inference suggested by facts in issue or relevant fact. The third one is where we talk about evidence of identification. So you have identity of thing or person. This one I will not going to discuss with you in this slide because there are quite big issues relating to identification. We are going to move on to next point, is where you have evidence under section 9 to fix the time and place. Yeah, to fix the time and place in which facts in issue or relevant facts happen. Now, say for example, you have a situation where, remember when you have a crime scene, yeah, you have to basically identify, right, sama ada this is a primary crime scene or this is a secondary crime scene. Now, what does it mean by primary crime scene? Primary crime scene is where the facts in issue occurred. Maknanya the act of killing happens at the crime scene. So basically the primary crime scene is very, very important because most evidence as to how crime is transpired is that. Secondary crime scene could be the location in which the body was dumped, right? So the body was dumped. Okay? So this is the secondary crime scene. Katakanlah just now you have a situation where Ali kill Mona. You have tadi Pak Mat who saw body of Mona, katakanlah dekat rubber tapper. Dekat rubber plantation. Right? While Pak Mat and the wife went to tap rubber at 4:30 a.m. Suddenly this morning, the environment was quite spooky because they suddenly smell some kind of very weird smell, right? And then while they were walking and tapping the rubber, Pak Ahmad fell down and suddenly face to face with Mona, who is lying on the ground. And Mona's face basically was covered with maggots, right? Mona's face is covered with maggots. And then eventually Pak Ahmad and the wife quickly ran from there, go to the police station, and now the police came to the scene of the crime. Now what happened here, you are talking about the law, you are talking about evidence relevant to fixed time and place. Now in this situation, you need to identify the time of Mona's death. Alright, when did she die? It's very, very important, because the moment you have identified the time of Mona's death, it's going to be easier for the it's going to be easier for the police to conduct investigation. Katakanlah Mona died 3 days ago, so maknanya the police will try to investigate and identify who could be the last person seen with Mona 3 hari lepas. So it can help out in the process of investigation. Now what will happen here is that you got to determine the time of Mona's death. Now what will happen here is that the forensic will go to the scene of the crime, take the maggots and bring it to the lab to examine. Because you have experts in analyzing insects and maggots. So I think most of you know that when you talk about maggots, you have this cycle, right? So if you talk about maggots of fly, you have the cycle. So when we die, after a few hours of death, there will be one kind of animal go to you. Katakanlah you are the langau hijau, the big one, will go to you. The langau will lay eggs on you. Now after a few hours, the leg will hatch and you go. There will be larva, yeah, larva ataupun maggots, and after a few hours or few days, the maggots turns to a pupa, and then it turns into the adult, larva or the god fly. So basically what happened here is that from the cycle of these maggots or fly, you can determine the time of death, yeah, when did Mona die. So in this situation, right, the maggots will be taken to the lab, and you may have katakanlah Mr. K, who is an expert on the study of insects, and he will identify that the time of her death. So what will happen here is that you are going to call Mr. K here as your prosecution witness. He will be testifying in the court as to the time of her death, and to be able to determine the time of death using the maggots that was found on her. So he has to be an expert. So you bawa in bawah section 9 to reflect the time of death, and he has to be an expert to be able to explain to you the time of death. So that will be the situation. Alright, so you're calling Dr. K here as your prosecution witness, and the evidence of Mr. K here will be relevant to show the time of death, right? Now, so the place of death will also be relevant. You got to look at the facts. Dalam context, in the case of Ali kill Mona, you got to see whether the blood found at the scene of the crime, the blood found at the rubber plantation here, will reflect that the murder happens there or not. Or does it reflect this to be a secondary crime scene where the body could have been transported to this location and dumped here. So if this is a secondary crime scene, what the investigator got to do is actually to find the primary crime scene in which the murder took place, because more evidence will be found at the primary crime scene. Got the picture? So this will be an example where you are tendering evidence to show time and place. So dalam konteks ini, you see, you call Mr. K is not to show the cause of death, but to the time of death. So he may not be the person who conduct the post-mortem on the body. He could be someone who got the sample from the crime scene, yeah, to verify on the body, yeah, the time of death, right? So this will be the fourth relevancy of facts mentioned under section 9. So the last one, if you refer to section 9, is where you are tendering evidence to show the relation of parties, the relationship of parties. Now, say for example, right? Suddenly, if you look at the newspaper, sometimes you may have, kalau you pernah baca newspaper lah, basically very big at one tycoon, a very wealthy businessman pass away. So what we have in the newspaper is that quite a number of pages of condolences, yeah, expressing grief as to the death of this tycoon. And dekat dalam situ advertisement itu biasanya what you can see here is that the advertisement will reflect that this tycoon basically has left maybe one wife, right? He left the wife and maybe 2 children, right? Suddenly during the service of dia punya ceremony untuk dia punya death, suddenly there's one beautiful woman here. One beautiful woman come to the house and claim that he is my father. The one who died is actually my father. He actually, my father actually got married to my mother while he was maybe in South Africa. So this woman here is actually claiming to have a blood relationship with the dead father, and now maybe want to claim inheritance. So in this context, you need to establish whether this particular woman is actually the daughter of the dead father or not. Yeah, the tycoon tadi. So what you got to do here, this is where you are talking about establishment of relationship of parties because of the claim of inheritance. Now what you got to do here, maybe the DNA of this woman can be analyzed and compare it with the DNA of the father to determine the ties, right? To determine the ties. If you recall last time, right, there was kita punya former yang di Pertuan Agong who got married with the very beautiful Russian model. They got a child. So the issue here is whether this particular child is actually the child of the Sultan or not, right? Now, for you to determine, what you got to determine here is actually the relationship of the parties, and the best way is to establish it through DNA. So maknanya DNA of the woman and DNA of the father here is sent to katakanlah Mr. T, who analyzed the DNA. So, and then this one you have to use section 45 as well, because to be able to determine the relationship of party, whether they are basically father and daughter or not, you have to be an expert. So this will be an example of you establishing relationship of parties. Okay, you got that? So basically in this context, you have evidence here relevant under section 9 to show, to explain or introduce facts and issue, to rebut an inference, and in our discussion here, you have evidence to relate time and place of facts and issue or relevant fact, and which shows the relationship of parties. Alright, so with this one, I stop on this explanation. We will look at other slides to look at explanation on evidence of identification under section 9.